10 seconds. Stand by. Go.
18.4 Desert Duel, Iceland versus Ohio. Here we go. Right off the bat, Bill, these guys are going right at 21 reps of deadlift.
Now, this is exactly what I was saying, that these guys need to pace. They need to understand what Diane is. You cannot take it for granted. Look at what Scott Panchik did, and I'm going to say that this is the wisdom part. He's dropping those every single, about 5 reps or so. Very smart, because that's going to be time under tension, off of his body, off of his grip. And how much far behind is he? What is that, 3 seconds, 2 seconds? Great move by Scott.
Scott is 30 years old, and again, he is just a master of consistency, averaging results of 5th at the CrossFit Games, and just keeps on doing it year after year after year. He has a background as a football player, and actually we've got a footballer on our right in BKG. He's got a soccer and gymnastics background.
Well, I'll tell you what, the gymnastics background is definitely playing into his favor. Did you see the speed at which he went? Now that's great. This is a set of 21. Everyone is good on the first part of Diane. It's when you get into that set of 15 and that final line, and then what happens at the end. So again, not that far off between these two.
Let's take a look at the keys now, what you think is going to be the determining factor or factors in this.
So again, you have to pace that Diane. You don't want to race it. It's not a one-time deal. We don't have 2 scores here. Be smart about that first part so you have energy for that second half. Adjust if needed. That's going to be the handstand push-up part with that new standard. If you find out that you miss 1 rep, you need to adjust immediately so you can make sure those don't happen again. And then short breaks. And so far, Scott has done that. I want to see how that's going to play. I think it's going to work in his favor. We have to see if he's going to be able to make up the time, though, on Björgvin over on the right-hand side. Look at the speed of those handstand push-ups.
Again, that is Björgvin Karl Guðmundsson on the right. He is in the lead now. 8 reps up on Scott Panchik here at the 18.4 open announcement live here at CrossFit Fury in Goodyear, Arizona. These guys, the common thing we talk about them is just how neck and neck they are in all of their placings at the games. In the open this year, they're only a few spots away from each other, and they continue to go back and forth.
Now we're getting into that final set of 9. And you got to figure when these guys have done this workout on their own, when we had it in regionals way back in the day, I think it was 2012, the best times were 1:39, somewhere around there. I would say the average time was around 2 minutes-ish for the top dogs. Scott Panchik back then was 3:45. He's way ahead of his game now, which is great. Now, look at the time that these guys are sitting, and they need to pace this. So we're just under the 3-minute mark before we get into that heavy deadlift. I'm hoping and I'm thinking that Scott Panchik now is going to be able to make his move on the deadlift part, because he's been holding those reins back, relaxing just a touch before he gets into these heavy deadlifts.
So right now we're on to the heavier portion of the deadlifts, 315 pounds for both our competitors, and Scott Panchik is now pulled right back into a tie with Gudmundson, but Gudmundsson going back at it on the right of your screen. One thing to pay attention to, we saw in a training video, Gudmundsson said he had a little bit of a right hip low back tightness back in January, so maybe that's something to pay attention to. He trains deadlifts off the blocks.
Well, and with off the blocks, that means that you're raising that deadlift, that bar off the ground. You're not getting that full depth, that normal starting position. Yes, it's going to work, so you're still working that posterior chain, but for competition, when you have to get that full depth, that full range of motion, it's going to affect you. Now, right here, we see both these guys are breaking early, fairly short rest between the two, but the one thing that Gudmundsson had over Scott was those handstand push-ups. We're not doing handstand push-ups now. Both these guys are good at handstand walks, so I expect to see the handstand walk go very, very quickly. It's all about this deadlift and how much they can stay on that bar with that short rest.
4 minutes gone by, 9-minute cap here, 18.4 open announcement. Scott Panchik on the left, Björgvin Karl Guðmundsson on the right, and as always, these two competitors are neck and neck.
So right there you can see BKJ is going to singles on his final couple reps. You can tell that he's starting to break down. That may have been Diane, but Scott Panchik, he knows what he needs to do. Very consistent, Doesn't let the fact that someone's ahead of him worry him. He just stays to his plan, and look at the speed on those handstand walks. That's beautiful.
Just flying through, and I believe, Bill, as he makes his way back to 315 on the bar again, you talked about this in head-to-head and handstand walks, that favored Panchik, even though Gudmundsson has the background in gymnastics.
You know, I looked through a handful of the different workouts, and they were very close, but yeah, Scott would have the edge almost every single time. So you could see the speed that Scott had on those handstand walks. And again, this is the workout for these elite athletes. When you get to the heavy part, this heavier Diane, this is where it all comes down to. So if you blew yourself out on Diane, you kind of lost it here.
I love the energy conservation from both these athletes. They're not going to waste time stepping over the bar to face the opposite direction. They just walked to the bar and got right in it. 5 minutes and change gone by. 9-minute cap here, 18.4. They're onto the heavy portion, the deadlifts, 21-15-9 at 315 pounds. And they also have a 25-foot one direction, 25-foot back handstand walk in between those reps of 21-15 and 9.
Again, it's all about the short break. So once you get to this segment of the event with the heavy deadlifts and those handstand walks, whether you're really good at handstand walks or not, you can't use that as a resting point. You have to quickly get down. And here's the thing, none of these guys felt we didn't even get to talk about the standard for that handstand walk. But we're every 5 feet. That's what that looks like. So you see the tape marks on the floor there. If for some reason you fall, you have to go back, and then your hands have to be at the opposite end of that segment that you missed. If you miss, fine. Just keep on going, get through this, because it's all about that deadlift. You got to get back on that bar. Even if you do sets of 1, you got to get on that bar and keep it moving.
And Panchik is flying, already making his way back to the bar at the back of the screen. That is Guðmundsson. We're getting a look at now as he makes his rotation to head back to the bar. And Panchik is just flying in his final set of 9.
He looks so tough. He looks so tough and so determined. Now remember, compare this to what he looked like on the first Diane part. Very conserved and reserved. Now he's pushing, and that's exactly the way you want to set it. In a lot of sports, I call that negative split. You want to be able to go faster on the second part than you did on the first part. Here, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but you need to be able to push. You can't get buried and just wait and rest. Not in this sort of an event.
Panchik looking to close it out. He wants a statement here tonight. He wants to tell everyone he's making his way to that podium in 2018. 7:13 for Panchik. Gudmundson.
Wow.
Still on those heavy deadlifts. 7:11.70, our unofficial time there for Panchik. And he really did separate himself on the handstand walks.
But both these guys are good. I mean, yes, Scott was fast, but I honestly believe it came down to that second part. I mean, Gudmundson, he still is moving fine. What hung him up was he got a couple no reps on the handstand walk because he went to the old standard, which is my foot is on the line, and he stepped out with his hands going over. You got to start with your hands in front of the line first. You can't dive out.
Gudmundson wants that mark to get his place in the open leaderboard, and he'll cross the line with time to spare as well. What a show from our athletes here. 18-4 at CrossFit Fury. Panchik. And that was just impressive, Bill, any way you look at it.
Yeah, you know, that's experience. He looked comfortable when he was out there the entire time.